Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. Fate Reforged is out and we're back with the first tournament review of the new format. This week we're looking at the results from the Star City Games Open in Washington, D.C. The new format has brought out plenty of interesting new decks, so let's not waste any more time. Gerard Fabiano took first place with Sultai Control. This is a very new deck, taking many cues from Blue-Black Control, but ultimately very much its own thing. Needless to say, the deck is packed with removal. No longer restricted to Perilous Vault as a sweeper, we see 2 Crux of Fate here instead for a more immediate effect. The rest is spot removal. 4 Bioblight, 3 Heroes Downfall, 2 Murderous Cut, and 2 Sultai Charm make up that part of the deck. 4 Dig Through Time and surprisingly 1 Interpret the Signs make up the card draw and selection package. Well, that and the third mode of Sultai Charm. If that sounds like a lot of delve, you're right, and there are some dedicated self-mill cards to make sure your graveyard is always loaded. 4 Satyr Wayfinder are the only creatures in the deck. They load up the graveyard while also ensuring you hit your land drops. After all, there are a lot of expensive cards here, but only 25 lands. 2 Rakshasa's Secret complement the hand hate of the 2 Thoughtseizes while also providing self-mill. And the deck has a killer suite of Planeswalkers to provide a combination of utility and finishing blows. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver can either play the mill game or just mill until you hit something good that your opponent had. Cure the Crashing Wave can neutralize an attacker, give you some cards and mana, or build up to huge Krakens as a win condition. Ugin the Spirit Dragon can burn your opponent out, sweep the board, and give you a sort of Sphinx's Revelation in a pinch if you can get him up to 10. Granted, if you can do that, you probably don't need the extra cards. And 1 Garruk Apex Predator can just come down and start axing everything. Seriously, the dude's cursed out of his mind. Second place went to Danny Goldstein and his red-white aggro deck. This deck had a somewhat similar composition to the Jeskai Tokens decks we used to see before Fate Reforged, minus the blue of course. The gaps get filled in by some new tech. 4 Rabble Masters are now joined by 4 Monastery Mentor in the 3 drops that keep making token slot. The spell base adds Outpost Siege, Collateral Damage, and Valorous Stance, all as 2-ofs. Outpost Siege is versatile in both modes, give you ways to push through unfavorable situations. Pick cons to get some extra gas, pump out more tokens, and fuel your prowess creatures. Go Dragons if you have a ton of tokens facing down a board of creatures bigger than they are. Collateral Damage is a lightning bolt for the low additional price of a token. And Valorous Stance can take out big troublemakers or save a token maker from biting the bullet. The rest of the deck is pretty familiar. Seeker, Stoke the Flames, Hordling Outburst, Raise the Alarm, and so on. Next up is Hunter Nance in third place with an Obzan aggro deck. The core of this deck is mostly the same as it was before rotation. Fleecemane Lion, Rakshasa Death Dealer, Courser, and Anafenza, topping out at Siege Rhino and Wingmate Rock. The only new card here is Tassiger the Golden Fang. He puts in a few appearances in the top 8. He was on sideboard of the winning Sultai Control deck as well. Here, he can be a very cheap 4/5 body, and his ability to get you cards back from the yard is strong for refueling in the mid to late game. It helps that you can use his delve cost to control what your opponent is able to give you off of his activated ability by getting rid of less important cards in the yard. The spells are also pretty typical for this sort of deck. You get Thoughtseize and Obzan Charm, and then removal like Bioblight and Hero's Downfall. Logan Mize took 4th place with Blue-White Heroic. This deck is a bit more familiar, and in fact uses no cards from Fate Reforged. While it is certainly recognizable, there are a couple big changes to the last build we looked at here. First off, Heliod's Pilgrim is gone. Instead, this list cuts out the middleman and just runs more Ordeal of Heliod and Stratus Walk. Eidolon of Countless Battles also hits the road to make room for more enchantments that have effects in and of themselves and are a bit cheaper too. Laganaban Trailblazer joins the team as an additional 1-drop to provide some early defense against anything a wider creature deck can throw its way. This build is very capable of turtling up in the early game with Trailblazer and Ordeal of Heliod, then building up one huge body to end the game. 5th place went to Ali Antrazi running Sultai Ramp. This deck has some similarities to the first place Sultai Control deck, but took a more aggressive angle with creatures like Hornet Queen and Pearl Lake Ancient. Sylvan Caryatid and Courser of Crewfix fill the same role of Satyr Wayfinder and then some, ramping mana and securing regular land drops. Frontier Siege is deadly here, either giving even more ramp or allowing Hornet Queen to drop as many as 4 creatures when it hits. Garruk Apex Predator and Ugin the Spirit Dragon provide additional late game threats, as does Worst Fears. Real surprise to see here, or anywhere really. Andrew Boswell finished 6th with another Obzan aggro deck. This one focused on a more aggressive game than its third place counterpart. It skipped bigger bodies like Siege Rhino and Tasigur for quicker threats in Soldier of the Pantheon and Warden of the First Tree. Wingmate Rock is also gone, replaced with Boon Satyr. And finishing out the aggressive shift, Thoughtseize and Hero's Downfall are out to make room for Valorous Stance and more Obzan Charm. In 7th place, we had Dan Musser with Obzan Midrange. This deck errs much more on the side of control than the Obzan midrange decks we used to see with only 9 creatures, Siege Rhino, Courser, and a single Tasigur. The rest is pretty much a big old pile of removal. Obzan Charm, Bioblight, Hero's Downfall, Murderous Cut, Utter End, and End Hostilities. There's a set of Thoughtseize and a pair of Read the Bones as well. If a Siege Rhino can't get there, all the Planeswalkers on the list are threats in and of themselves. Elspeth can build an army, Sorin can also make tokens while also pumping them up, and Ugin can just burn the opponent out directly. While the name is the same, this definitely seems like a new and different direction for Obzan midrange. Rounding out our top 8 is Michael Waluski with Jeskai aggro. Most of the aggressive Jeskai decks before had been token-based, and not so now. Rebel Master is the only token-producing card in the deck. Seeker of the Way and Manus Rider are still here. However, Stormbreath Dragon now sits atop the curve with Shaman of the Great Hunt just underneath it. The Shaman is particularly potent in combination with Manus Rider. In just one swing of the Rider, you'll be able to pick up 2 cards off the Shaman's draw ability. Other new additions include Obzan Advantage, Valorous Stance, and Wild Slash. Obzan Advantage may seem odd, but between Sieges, Coursers, and Ordeals, nearly every deck has something for it to hit. And since it just targets the opponent, not the enchantment, you can just cast it for the bolster if you want. Valorous Stance is good for protecting the relatively sparse creature base, and Wild Slash is a solid shock variant with a useful Ferocious Rider. The rest of the spells are Dig Through Time and Burn, with 4 damage spells Jeskai Charm and Stoke the Flame standing out here. And that's it for this week's top 8. What do you think of the new standard so far? Did any of the cards surprise you? Were there any cards you were expecting to see but didn't? Let us know down below. Next weekend, Star City is going to Indianapolis, and we'll be back here with the results. Worse Spheres and Standards. Anyways, remember to subscribe below for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.